Hello everyone, and welcome to this video presentation on the Dell EqualLogic Auto-Snapshot Manager VMware Edition Local Protection. In the first part of this presentation, we're going to cover the introduction to Auto-Snapshot Manager VMware Edition, talk a little bit about what it does and how it can help your environment. We're going to show you a demonstration on creating smart copies, and we're going to show you a demonstration on restoring those smart copies. Auto-Snapshot Manager VMware Edition is one of the tools that is provided with the Host Integration Toolkit for VMware by Dell EqualLogic. It's part of the all-inclusive feature set that you get when you purchase an EqualLogic array. What it is it's a virtual appliance that's downloaded and installs into your Virtual Center environment. It registers with Virtual Center, and what it does is it coordinates taking snapshots, both the VMware snapshot and the hardware snapshot, together to create hypervisor consistent local protection for your virtual machine. It allows for scheduling and automation of the protection. It works with the VMware folders structure, data store structure, data center structure, so you can create multiple tiers of protection based upon the SLAs that you have for protecting these virtual machines. You can roll them back then, either entire data stores, entire folders, or individual virtual machines, or you can actually dig down into the snapshot VMDKs, mount the VMDKs, and pull out individual files that you need. So how does this actually work? So what happens is the Auto Snapshot Manager tool, like I said, is a virtual appliance that sits out there, and it coordinates the Hypervisor VMware snapshots with the storage-based snapshots. So what happens first is it tells the virtual machines to go ahead and put themselves into snapshot mode. Then it tells the storage to go ahead and take a hardware snapshot of the data stores that these virtual machines reside on. And then it releases those virtual machine snapshots. So now the cool thing about virtual machine snapshots from VMware is it provides a hypervisor layer of consistency for those virtual machines. So you right-click on a VM, you say take a snapshot, it coordinates the snapshot. Depending on if the tool supports it, you can get a quiesced virtual machine inside there. Now the problem though is if you leave these virtual machines into snapshot mode for too long, there's a potential of actually filling up the data store because it keeps track of all these changes. If you fill up the data store, those virtual machines become unavailable and bad things can happen. So what we do is we actually coordinate with VMware's Virtual Center to create the same level of consistency for the virtual machines, and then we offload that snapshot to the SAN. So it's a space efficient hardware based snapshot, and then we can release that virtual machine from snapshot mode and continue working on the virtual machine as if it was not in snapshot mode, but still have a copy of it in a protected snapshot space. Then from there you can do a whole lot of things. You can recover the virtual machines, you can bring the virtual machines online in a different location and do test and dev, data mining. There's a lot of things that you can do with these snapshots. So let's take a look at this tool and see how it works. So Auto Snapshot Manager is one of the 3 tools that are part of the Host Integration Toolkit. Once it's installed and configured and registered with Virtual Center, it shows up as a plugin right here under the Solutions and Applications. So we can go ahead and click this to launch the Auto Snapshot Manager. This will actually bring us to the tool. Now one of the other cool things is because it's a Virtual Center plugin, it's tightly integrated with Virtual Center. So if I go into my virtual machines and templates, I can actually right-click on a folder, and you see this new icon right here for EqualLogic. I can create a smart copy, create a schedule, create a smart clone. So what happens is it's very context sensitive as to what we can do in these environments. You can also see we actually have a tab up here for EqualLogic, and it'll show available smart copies based on the object that we clicked on. So right here, this is the ASMVE folder. You can see that we already have a smart copy created, and it shows up here in the tab. Now, because we inherit the folder structure of Virtual Center, one of the things you can do is actually create your protection schemes based around your folders that you manage your virtual machines by. So now when someone creates a new virtual machine, it's not just how much CPU and how much memory and how much hard drive space do I need, but you can also configure and create a protection scheme around this. Now, ASMVE doesn't replace your backup process, but instead augments your existing data protection schedules by providing point-in-time restoration points throughout the day. The cool thing about doing this at folder levels or data center levels is by creating a new virtual machine and putting it into that folder, it automatically inherits the protection strategy of that folder and allows for your schedules and snapshots to keep going based on that folder structure. So let's open up the tool and take a quick peek around. So if I click on Auto Snapshot Manager, one of the things you'll see on the left side are the smart copies, and these are all the different folders. As I take smart copies, they're available here, so I can actually click on a folder inside Virtual Center and see which objects have been smart copied there, or I can open up Auto-Snapshot Manager and see all of my various smart copies. And a smart copy is just what we call a integrated hypervisor consistent snapshot between VMware and the SAN. Now we can create a smart copy a few different ways. We can click up here on the button where it says Create Smart Copy, or from within our VMs and Templates view, we can actually right-click on any of these folders or virtual machines and go down to the EqualLogic tab, and here we have the option to create a smart copy, create a schedule, or create a clone. So a smart copy is going to be that hypervisor consistent snapshot of all of the objects within that folder. Creating a schedule is going to let us obviously create a schedule for that smart copy process, and then creating a smart clone is more than just cloning one individual virtual machine. It's actually cloning all of the objects within there at the data store level and bringing it online as a new data store with all of those entities available, and it'll also register it and do all the things that it needs to do to bring it into Virtual Center. So it's more than just copying and cloning a single virtual machine. So let's go ahead and create a smart copy. If I click on Create a Smart Copy, the first thing you'll see in the wizard is the ability to include PS Series volumes accessed by guest iSCSI initiators. So what this means is if you have the virtual machine, it's up and running, you've got the VMware tools, and you happen to be using iSCSI initiator inside to connect to some data drives, it will actually go through the entire process of figuring out which volumes on the SAN belong to that virtual machine and take a snapshot of those as well as the virtual machine data stores. You can also perform a virtual machine memory dump. What this will do is this will save the virtual machine memory state to disk before taking an actual snapshot. Now, depending on your SLAs and the size of the memory, this is an option for you to be able to take advantage and get better granularity for your restoration. Another thing you can do is you can set these PS Series snapshots online. Now, normally you wouldn't do that because you're keeping these around for data protection in your environment, but maybe you want to do something else. Maybe you want to take a smart copy and then mount that to either the same ESX cluster or another ESX cluster and do some data mining, browse through a virtual machine folder structure, make a couple of changes, and do something with a copy of the production environment but not actually using the real production environment. For this example, we're going to go ahead and perform the virtual machine memory dump and click on Next. And then you can read through the summary. Now, the cool thing is it's smart enough to know where all of these volumes and virtual machine relationships are. So you can see down here we actually have two volumes that the virtual machines all span across. So it's smart enough to know that if I want to protect this entity, this folder of virtual machines, I'm going to not only put these virtual machines into snapshot mode, but I'm also going to take snapshots of the data store volumes that they reside on. I'm going to go ahead and click on Finish. And you can see we have a job history of everything running. So if I click here, you can actually see what's happening. It's going to create the VMware snapshots, create the volume snapshots. So if we go down here in the recent tasks, you can actually see it's creating a virtual machine snapshot. And this is the process of actually copying the memory state down to disk. Once that's done, it'll actually create a PS Series volume snapshot, and then it'll release the virtual machines from their snapshot mode. So after a few minutes, you can see that the job has been completed and it was successful. You can kind of see what happened right here. It also took two snapshots, one of each of the PS Series data store volumes and the virtual machine snapshots themselves. Down here in the tasks, you can see how it's actually gone ahead and, after the process is completed, it's removed the snapshot so that the virtual machines aren't left into snapshot mode for more than a couple of minutes so that they can keep doing what they need to do. Let's go ahead and close this, and let's go ahead and open up Auto-Snapshot Manager. So inside Auto-Snapshot Manager, on the left-hand side, you can see we have all of our smart copies. You can see all the different virtual machine folders. If you were taking snapshots of individual virtual machines, they would reside here. So this is going to be your single pane of glass to see all of the smart copies that have been created, and as well as recoverability options. So if I actually click on the ASMVE folder, you can see that I've got a couple of smart copies that I've created before. Let's see how we would actually go ahead and restore something from that. Let's take, for example, that smart copy that we just completed. If I click on the timestamp right here, down here you can see all of the different objects that are part of that smart copy. So again, this comes back to having a good understanding that ASMVE has of your virtual infrastructure. It understands where your virtual machines live, it understands what volumes they're part of, what folders they're part of, and kind of integrates the whole thing together to provide you this data protection strategy. Over here, if I click on the PS Series snapshots, I can see the actual PS Series volumes that are snapped and the snapshots that coincide with that. So I can actually go to my group, and underneath the volumes themselves I can see the snapshots that was just created. So back inside Virtual Center, I can right-click on this SmartCopy, and I have two options. I can restore from SmartCopy, or I can clone from SmartCopy. So let's go ahead and restore from a SmartCopy just to see how it works. So if I click on Restore from SmartCopy, it's going to build the restore plan. The first thing I'm given is an option of which objects I want to restore. So these objects are at a virtual machine level. I can actually click on the entire folder. I can select individual virtual machines that I want. I know which data stores are going to be impacted by this. I can click on Next. Now, the first thing you'll notice in this screen is all of the dependencies that may be impacted by rolling back a snapshot or a volume. So because we're taking the snapshot at the data store level, if I look, it's smart enough to say, hey, you know what? This server 1, which was part of the SmartCopy, is also on a volume with a bunch of virtual machines that were not part of that SmartCopy. So if you were to roll this entire thing back, you would negatively impact other virtual machines on there. So the way to fix that is you would actually restore by a copy. So it would mount the snapshot, copy the data back to the original data store, and then roll back the VMware snapshot, bring it online, and remove the snapshot from the VMware piece. So what this does is it makes sure that you don't impact your existing virtual machine infrastructure when you're trying to roll back or restore virtual machines. Now, if you wanted to, you could click on this checkbox to actually roll back the data store, and it would roll back that entire data store. Obviously, in this environment, with the errors it's giving us, we would know we would negatively impact those other virtual machines. So we're going to go ahead and restore both of these virtual machines by copy and click on Next. The next thing is if there were iSCSI attached volumes, it would say these are the volumes that are accessed by these virtual machines. Do you also want to roll these back or not? We can, obviously in this virtual machine environment, there are no iSCSI attached volumes, so we're just going to click Next. And the summary is going to tell you whether or not data stores are being rolled back, which virtual machines are being restored, whether or not you're rolling back any iSCSI attached target volumes. It will also tell you if it sees any potential problems, like, hey, if you roll back this whole data store, you could negatively impact some virtual machines. So once we review this, we'll go ahead and say Finish. You can see in the job history where it's at and what it's doing. So it's powered off the virtual machines, as we can see down here in the Task Manager. It's rescanning the HBAs, because what it's going to do is it's going to mount those snapshots, bring them online, rescan the HBAs, resignature the snapshots so that they can be seen, and then once it sees them, it can actually copy the virtual machines back. So you can see it's resignatured the VMFS volume, rescan them, done the data store groups. Right up here you can see the ESX Volume 1 and Volume 2, or these are the snaps of the volumes that were brought online, the snapshots of those volumes. Now that they're seen by Virtual Center, ASMVE will actually take the virtual machine data files and move them back to the original data store. You can see down here it's deleted the two virtual machines that we're replacing, and now we're going to replace them with the version that is sitting on the snapshot. So you can see the virtual machine copy has taken place. It reverted the snapshot of the virtual machine, because remember we took a memory state of it, then it removed the snapshot, and now what it's doing is it's getting rid of those temporary snapshot volumes that it brought online to copy. And when all that is finished, we get a success message, and basically it's rescanned the HBAs, gotten rid of the temporary volumes it brought online. The virtual machines have been restored back to what they were, so now we have Server 1 and Server 3 exactly back to the point we had them at when we took the snapshot. You can actually go through, scroll here, and you can see Server 1 and Server 3 were both reverted. Now, the other thing it also does is, just in case when it's doing a copy, it creates a snapshot of the volume before we roll anything back. So just in case something happens where when you roll back the data and you say, oh, you know what, I made a mistake and I really didn't want to roll back from 3 o'clock, I really need that virtual machine back to where it was, that information is available for you to restore. So now we can say close, and that's how easy it is to restore from a SmartCopy.